6 days. That's how fast a mother's joy turned into tragedy. On March 25, 2025, Daron Jenkins posted a message online. Her oldest son, Daryn, had just been released from prison. She was overjoyed, praising God and welcoming him home. For Dana, it was a second chance, a new start for her family. But just 6 days later, Dana and her younger son, 15-year-old Daryn Cox, were found murdered in their home. Stabbed to death, and the man responsible, the very son she had just welcomed back into her life, Daron Jenkins. This happened in Wilson, North Carolina. A quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people know each other. Dana's house had always been warm, full of faith and family, but by the end of that week, it became the center of a horrific crime scene. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle from the outside. This wasn't random. It wasn't about money. This was personal. A mother was killed by the son she prayed for. A little brother lost his life just for being there. This story isn't just about murder. It's about love, denial, and the warning signs everyone saw, but no one acted on. Because Dana believed love could fix anything. But love wasn't enough to stop what was coming. Before the crime, Daron Jenkins was known as a kind, faithful woman. She worked full-time, was active in her church, and always had time for others. Neighbors described her as warm and selfless, the kind of person who'd cook for a sick friend or offer a ride without being asked. Her youngest son, Daryn Cox, was only 15, but already someone people admired. He was polite, smart, and always smiling. At school, he made the honor roll and helped lead student groups. At church, he ran the media booth and played music for the service. He wasn't just a good kid. He was the kind of teen people said was raised right. Dana and Daryn were incredibly close. They did everything together, cooking, cleaning, even late-night talks. She often called him her reason to keep going. Friends said it was like they shared the same heart. Then there was Daron Jenkins, Dana's oldest son. Daryn's life had taken a darker path. He'd been in trouble since his teens, breaking into homes, stealing firearms, and getting arrested more than once. At 25, he had just finished a 3-year prison sentence. Still, Dana never gave up on him. She prayed for him, wrote letters, visited him behind bars. She believed that deep down the boy she raised was still there, that if she just loved him hard enough, he'd come back whole. But the man who walked out of prison was not the same person who had left, and nobody, not even Dana, was ready for what he would do next. March 25, 2025, the day Daron Jenkins came home. Dana had cleaned the house top to bottom. She cooked his favorite meal, tied balloons to the porch, even made a welcome home banner. To her, this was everything she had waited for. Her family finally back together. But from the start, something felt off. In the photos from that day, Dana is beaming. Daryn, though, looks blank, no smile, no warmth. Just a cold, distant stare. And it wasn't just the pictures. Neighbors and relatives noticed it too. Something in his eyes, something in how he moved. People felt uneasy, but no one said anything. Over the next few days, that tension only grew. Daryn barely talked. He paced the house late at night, mumbling to himself. He'd stare out the window for hours. One night, a family member caught him just standing in the hallway. Not doing anything, just watching. Then came the strange request. He asked Dana for $200. Said he needed a few things. She gave it to him without hesitation. But instead of buying essentials, Daryn used the money to purchase bleach, duct tape, and a hunting knife. And on March 31st, just 6 days after his return, Daryn used that knife. Inside their home, he stabbed his mother, Dana, repeatedly. Then he turned on Daryn. The 15-year-old may have tried to run, but he didn't make it. It wasn't a sudden explosion. It was planned and carried out with terrifying control. At 5:30 p.m. on March 31st, a strange call came into 911. The person on the line sounded confused. The dispatcher couldn't make out exactly what was wrong, just that something was. Police were sent to the home on Snowden Drive. Everything looked normal from the outside. Porch light on, Dana's car in the driveway, no broken windows, no forced entry. But the door wouldn't open. When officers got inside, what they found was horrifying. Dana was near the front of the house, stabbed multiple times. Daryn's body was found deeper inside, like he had tried to run. Both had been killed with a knife. The scene was controlled, deliberate, and full of rage. But the most shocking part, Daron Jenkins was still there. He hadn't run. He hadn't even tried to hide. He was calm, almost emotionless. He let the officers arrest him without a fight. No words, no expression. In the hours that followed, detectives began piecing together what had happened. They found a receipt for the hunting knife, bleach and duct tape, all purchased days before. They confirmed Daryn had a long history of violence, even inside prison. He had been denied parole twice. His release wasn't earned. It was automatic. And then came one more detail that left investigators chilled. Dana had a life insurance policy through her job. Not huge, but enough. The listed beneficiary, Daron Jenkins. He had walked into that house with a plan. No one saw it coming, or they did, and stayed silent. The day after the murders, Daron Jenkins appeared in court. He didn't speak, didn't look at anyone, just stared straight ahead, cold and expressionless, like he was waiting for a bus, not facing charges for killing his own mother and brother. He was officially charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The judge denied bail. He would stay in jail until trial. In court, prosecutors painted a clear picture. This wasn't a moment of rage. It was a calculated act. Daryn had made purchases ahead of time. He'd shown warning signs, and he'd taken full advantage of the love and trust his mother gave him. They also revealed more about his background. While in prison, Daryn had a long list of incidents, fights, threats, and disturbing behavior. He wasn't released because he changed. He was released because the law said his time was up. The defense had little to offer. There was no insanity plea, no real explanation for what happened. And Daryn, he stayed quiet through it all. When the jury saw the evidence, the receipts, the crime scene photos, the lack of remorse, the decision didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. Daron Jenkins was convicted of the brutal murders of his mother, Dana Jenkins, and his 15-year-old brother, Daryn Cox. The news of Dana and Daryn's murders spread fast. In a town like Wilson, everyone knew someone who knew them. At Mount Moriah Community Church, where both Dana and Daryn were active members, grief hit like a wave. The next evening, the church opened its doors for an emergency prayer service. People packed the sanctuary, many too stunned to speak. Some wept openly. Others sat in silence, struggling to process what had happened. At Daryn's high school, his empty desk became a painful reminder of everything that was lost. Teachers couldn't hold back tears. Classmates left notes, flowers, and drawings. Grief counselors were brought in to help students cope. Dana's cousin, who lived next door, couldn't make sense of it. She'd seen Daryn's strange behavior, but never imagined this outcome. "I just thought something was off," she said. "I never thought he would actually do something like this." The funerals for Dana and Daryn were held together, less than 2 weeks after their deaths. The church was packed. Family, friends, neighbors, even strangers who'd heard the story and wanted to show support. The pain in that room was deep, raw, the kind of pain that doesn't fade quickly. For the Jenkins family, and the whole community, Life would never be the same. A home that once stood for faith and second chances was now remembered as a place of heartbreak. This story is hard to accept because it forces us to ask the hardest questions. What happens when love isn't enough? What if the person you're trying to save doesn't want to be saved? Daron Jenkins believed in second chances. She believed that no matter how far someone had fallen, they could find their way back, especially her son. She had the kind of faith most people admire, but in the end, that faith may have cost her life. Everyone saw the signs, the silence, the strange behavior, the cold stare, but out of love or fear of hurting Daron, no one spoke up, and that silence proved deadly. Daryn Cox didn't deserve what happened to him. He was just a kid, full of promise, kindness, and love. His life was taken simply because he was there, because he trusted his brother like Daron did. Daron Jenkins took more than 2 lives. He shattered a family, a church, a school, and a community. And what's most terrifying is that it all could have been prevented. Sometimes, believing in someone isn't enough. Sometimes, the danger isn't outside the home. It's already inside. We don't tell these stories for shock. We tell them because they matter. Because behind every crime like this is a warning and a chance to do better next time. Better next time.